Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and I'm recording on June 20th. Thank you for joining. Please help support the work that I do by donating on my website. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or Buy Me a Coffee. You can also be a paid member to my Patreon or Substack channel. All these videos I do are for free, so please help support the work that I do. In addition, I have great supplements that will help to improve your health and wellness and slow down the aging process if you follow my protocol. It works. It will help you to get healthy. We're going to go over the news, especially the ceasefire seems to be collapsing between the United States and Iran. The Strait of Hormuz, as of this recording, is closed because of the fighting that's happening between Israel and Hezbollah. We're going to play some clips. Also, I'm going to give you my perspective on how Trump is failing in this war. As an introduction, the United States doesn't have enough runway for two reasons to conclude properly the war with Iran. One, the midterm elections. Number two, inflation. The cost of goods and services are going up, and gasoline prices recently were averaging $4.50 plus in the United States. Now, because of the flow of oil going through the strait in recent days, gasoline prices have been going down and it's below $4 now. Oil has been trading close to $73 a barrel for WTI. But on Thursday, near the end of trading, it closed at around 76 plus. If the strait is not flowing oil, WTI is going to go above 80. So we're going to still have the problem with gasoline prices. So Trump needs to solve this problem soon before it really affects the economy in the United States and the world economy. There's not enough runway to do this properly. Unfortunately, Trump didn't use ground forces at the very beginning, maybe 3 to 4 weeks into the operation, secured the strait, secured the energy, and started to push the IRGC farther back into the northern territory of Iran. And we should have leveled Tehran with gravity bombs. This precision weapon stuff, very expensive, very precise in most cases, but the absolute carnage and the cost effectiveness of gravity bombs leveling a whole city does a psychological damage that smart bombs don't. So, with all this, we're going to listen to the news. I'll give you my perspective, but I believe that Trump has failed because he didn't go all the way to make sure that we procured the nuclear material from Iran and that the IRGC and the theocratic regime of Iran was eliminated because Trump always chickens out. So more economic instability is going to happen. And remember what I said earlier about the curse that's coming, 9/11, because of Rosh Hashanah and the Sabbath coinciding. Well, if we go into the Bible, there were the 10 plagues of Egypt. And some of the plagues were dealing with water. And the water turned red because Pharaoh wasn't listening to Moses. Maybe, just maybe, there's a little bit of a hint of that, the red Nile, with the green algae that's taking place with the reflection pool in Washington, D.C. And it's all happening at this time. And it was unexpected. Now there's biological reasons why, there's scientific reasons why the algae is growing, and the failure of the layer of vinyl that they put in the pool. It wasn't laid properly, it wasn't prepared properly. There were micro tears in it, and it delaminated. But it happens all at the same time that supposedly there was going to be a peace agreement between Iran and the United States. So there are hints. There's an echo of history. Echo of history relative to World War I and World War II. There's the echo of history with the infighting in this country about race and race division. But there's also an echo of history biblically that is happening. Pathogens, changing of the color of water at a capital. Things are starting to emerge that proves my point, or suggests my point, that there's a curse coming.
Iran has closed the Strait of Hormuz, citing alleged violations of a ceasefire agreement by the U.S. and Israel. Tehran said the closure was the first step in response to what it described as breaches of commitments regarding the continuing clashes in Lebanon, and warned that further measures would be taken if aggression continued. Iran's foreign ministry says it did not sign a commitment that it will not be implemented. Tehran says its negotiating team still plans to leave for Switzerland. We can now bring in our international affairs editor, Ketevan Borjestani. So this seems to have sort of come out of left field. We've all been talking about, negotiations are to get underway in Switzerland. Teams are going, and then, oops, nope, we're closing everything again. So where do we stand?
Well, look, this announcement was made pretty officially by the Iranians to say that they are reclosing the Strait of Hormuz because of what is going on in southern Lebanon. According to the Iranians, they believe that this is an incremental part of the deal it has with the United States, that military operations and the fire needs to stop everywhere, including in Lebanon. And the Iranians believe that what Israel is doing in southern Lebanon amounts to breach of that deal, because they say the United States is obligated to force Israel to stop attacking Lebanon as part of its own American commitment to this memorandum of understanding. And you have to remember that these two things, the Strait of Hormuz and the end of hostilities on all fronts, are basically the two concrete measures that were agreed to in that memorandum of understanding that was just agreed upon between the United States and Iran. The issue was always going to be what is happening in southern Lebanon, because what you have here is really what everyone was worried about, which is you have an agreement between Iran and the United States that doesn't involve Israel and Hezbollah, even though the terms of the agreement seem to indicate that these two sides, Israel and Hezbollah, need to do things on their own in order for the broader deal to actually stand a chance. So that's what you're seeing right now unfolding. Let's just turn back a little bit, because this is an announcement by the Iranians. Obviously, the Strait of Hormuz was going to take some time to reopen, so we don't know exactly concretely how this is going to work. We know that it had been reopened a little bit. Now they're saying they're going to close it again. J.D. Vance, the U.S. Vice President, was actually on Fox News earlier today, and he said that there was no evidence that Iran was closing the strait. He also seemed to be very optimistic about where the talks between Iran and the United States, that are supposed to be starting any time now, are going to continue. Yes, the Iranians said they're sending their teams. J.D. Vance said that Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are also going to be in Geneva. Those talks are going on. He says that things are going well, that we're confident that we can maintain the ceasefire. The Iranians are saying that what happens in Lebanon could very well jeopardize the deal between the U.S. and Iran. So it is very complicated. This is just happening, and we'll have to see where these two sides go from here.
Right, Ketevan, thank you. Stay here for a minute because I want to bring in our correspondent in Tehran, Reza Sayah. So, Reza, we've been sort of, picking apart this information that's just come out that they're going to close the Strait of Hormuz. What else has the Iranian government been saying about all of this and what's happening?
Well, Teflon says they are indeed shutting down the Strait of Hormuz. At the same time, they say they're still prepared for diplomacy, but their position, their message is that Washington has not fulfilled one of its conditions, and that's to restrain Israel and southern Lebanon. In response, they're going to shut down the Strait of Hormuz. I don't think anybody expected this memorandum of understanding to be executed easily and smoothly. They understood the challenges that Teflon and Washington have, two countries that have been in conflict for 47 years, but perhaps they didn't expect things to be undermined and be in jeopardy so quickly, so soon, within days. Let's go ahead and read you the message from Teflon's top military headquarters announcing that the Strait of Hormuz has been closed. Iran's Qatam al-Anbiya military commands announcing that the closure of Strait of Hormuz has taken place due to what it described as the blatant breach and violation by the United States of the first clause of the ceasefire agreement in response to the continuous and relentless violations, the message reads. The merciless killing and displacement of hundreds of Lebanon and thousands of oppressed people of this land, and also considering the failure of
Israel is not going to allow this peace agreement to happen. And what the United States needs to do, but it won't, for various reasons. One major reason that they won't push back on Israel, the United States won't push back on Israel, is because of the lobbying group, the power of the lobbying group. Secondly, Israel will not allow this peace agreement to happen. Because once it does happen, they are going to, their optionality in pushing the northern front and also moving into the West Bank their ability to do that will diminish. In the United States, what we need to do is push back, tell the Israelis, we're no longer sending you money and we're no longer sending weapons. And then they'll start to realize the actual cost of their military operation in terms of political capital and in terms of munitions, in terms of domestic policy. Israel is running rogue right now. Now, don't get me wrong. I 100% think that Hezbollah and Hamas need to be destroyed. Same thing with the IRGC. Unfortunately, what has happened is that there's been enough time to do this, and Israel failed and the United States failed. The United States failed in terms of not destroying the IRGC, and Israel failed by not destroying completely Hezbollah. Hamas is mostly destroyed. So, but if they want to continue on, fine, but on their own dime, with their own weapons. Now, the reality is if we don't sell the weapons, most likely the French will. So, we'll be losing money, but in terms of sales. But the reality of the situation is they're using the money that we give them to purchase weapons. We give them money. We also give Palestine money. We should stop that. Palestine doesn't get any money, nor does Israel get any money. And then we stop selling the weapons. But then what they'll do is they'll somehow find ways to get weapons from the French and or create so much stir in the region where it forces us to get back in. And that's a big problem. Another key understanding is that no country deserves anything. Palestinians don't deserve land. Israel doesn't deserve land. United States doesn't deserve land. You deserve land when you can win on the battlefield and maintain the land. Maintain your territorial integrity. Control your currency. Be a strong nation and protect the region. If you can't do that, you don't deserve it. So this idea that, well, Denmark deserves Greenland, no. Or Greenlanders deserve Denmark, no. If the United States can go into Greenland and take it, that's the law of the jungle. Then people would say, Dr. Paul Cottrell, we're in a new world order where it's not the law of the jungle anymore, based on what Bush 41 said. Well, the reality of the situation is this. Nations fall, nations rise, and it's all predicated on the ability to protect your territory. Now, you can have domestic policies and international policies that help that or hinder it, but no one deserves anything, especially when it comes to land. And that includes the Israelis. If you can't defend it, you don't deserve it. That includes the Palestinians. If you can't defend it, you don't deserve it. So get out of this mindset that everyone deserves their land. No. That's not the case. That's not how the real world works. That's utopia. So Israel needs to do this on their own. And then what they'll start to realize is that inflation will start to go up faster than is happening currently in Israel. If it is an existential threat, all of its citizens need to fight, not only a select few. And whatever happens, happens. If the Palestinians in the West Bank get decimated, that's the law of the jungle. If Israel loses and has a fraction of itself or loses the complete war and goes into diaspora again, that was what it was meant to be. That's the point that I'm making here. The United States should have used more deadly force on Iran to destroy the IRGC and the theocratic regime. It's too late now. We lost. We lost.
This occupying forces to withdraw from southern Lebanon. Again, Tehran has announced that the Strait of Hormuz will be closed for vessel traffic. Remember, when this memorandum of understanding was signed on Wednesday, that Masoud Pezeshkian digitally here in Tehran, that's the president of Iran and then U.S. President Donald Trump, the first thing Tehran did was announce that the Strait of Hormuz has been open now. It would open it to commercial shipping. That was a condition, but another condition was for hostilities
I'm going to go to live now. I think they have a little bit better feed here.
Turns out the government tracks a lot of data, and it's scattered all over the place. Data on prices, jobs.
We are following a developing story as we're learning the Strait of Hormuz has been closed. This is a post here that's just coming in, and the Associated Press is reporting that Iran's Joint Military Command saying today that the Strait of Hormuz has been closed again, citing Israeli attacks in Lebanon and U.S. bad faith and, quote, its clear breach of its commitments by failing to end the war. The statement on state television also warned that, quote, if the aggression continues, subsequent steps have been planned. Ships had begun transiting the strait after the interim U.S.-Iran agreement was signed just a bit earlier this week. Now, we've been reporting here this morning that Israeli strikes on southern Lebanon this morning killed at least 16 people, including 2 children, hours after reports emerged of that ceasefire agreement. Now, the persistent fighting threatened that agreement between the United States and Iran to end the war in the Middle East. Bringing you this live look here this morning, courtesy of marine traffic of the Strait of Hormuz at this moment here as we're bringing you this breaking news. Once again, learning here that Iran's joint military just saying that the Strait of Hormuz has been closed again, citing those Israeli attacks in Lebanon. Iranian state television says the country's negotiating team is going to Switzerland for talks with the United States over their interim deal on the war. We already know that White House envoys Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are already there in Switzerland, and this is supposed to be held tomorrow. Now, the broadcaster cited a foreign ministry spokesperson in its report on Saturday. The trip was originally planned for Friday, but that was canceled. If you remember, Vice President J.D. Vance was set to go over there to Switzerland. Now, the new announcement came shortly after Iran's Joint Military Command said the Strait of Hormuz had closed again, citing those Israeli attacks in Lebanon. We also heard from the foreign ministry spokesperson there who told state TV that, quote, any memorandum or agreement is ultimately tested when it enters the implementation phase. So this is a breaking news update here, and we're watching on Truth Social to see if we're going to be hearing from President Trump on this, as the Strait of Hormuz has now been closed. President Trump also had posted to Truth Social this morning on Iran, which I will share here with you. But we also saw Vice President J.D. Vance, as he was just on Fox and Friends moments ago. And he says that talks are progressing, with the U.S. focused on preventing Iran from rebuilding its nuclear program while maintaining leverage through economic and strategic pressure. Of note here, though, the vice president did say this before this news just came out here, that the Strait of Hormuz has been closed. And this is that post here from President Trump via Truth Social this morning. This is all he's had to really say about Iran as of now. He says, funny how the Democrats like to say that Iran is in a stronger position today than they were 3 months ago, despite the fact that they have been defeated militarily with no Navy or Air Force. That's why I call them the Democrats. But we are now following this breaking news coming in here from the Associated Press, reporting that the Strait of Hormuz has now been closed again, once again citing Israeli attacks in Lebanon and U.S. bad faith and its clear breach of its commitments by failing to end the war. If we get any more updates here from President Trump, we will bring it to you here on Live Now from Fox.
100% that the Israelis are trying to deep six the peace agreement. But what's going to happen is individuals that were trying to help support Israel will start to pull back, and Israel will be on its own. I personally believe that we should stop funding Israel, stop giving weapons, stop giving munitions for their Iron Dome, and stop giving money. The problem is that they're so embedded through PAC money and the lobbying group within Washington, D.C. and K Street that you'll have a lot of senators and a lot of House of Representatives continue on pigs at the trough benefits for Israel. And it's not helping the American public. But I'm not a pacifist. I'm not an American pacifist. I'm actually an American expansionist. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the Boomer Boost. Boomer Boost has 68 nutrients. These nutrients will allow you to slow down the aging process. It works on multiple systems. It helps to boost up your immune system and your endocrine system, helps with brain function, allows you to sleep better, gets rid of that brain fog. Your neural connections will improve. It'll help with your cardiovascular health, help with your musculature, rev up your energy levels, speed up your metabolism. You get lots of benefits by taking Boomer Boost. It has a very comprehensive compound profile. It's a powder that lasts a month. You mix it with soft foods like hummus or yogurt. You can mix it in a smoothie, mix it in filtered water or even milk, but take it every day. This is a perfect supplement as your multivitamin, but you will get a lot more than just a regular multivitamin. Take this every day, and it's going to slow down the aging process. You're going to have a steady burn of energy throughout the whole day, no spiking, and you will notice that you have more vitality. Another great supplement that I have is the barley. Now you can get barley in two varieties from my store: heirloom barley and gladiator barley. Now, heirloom barley will help to detoxify your body, bring down inflammation, soak up free radicals. That's really important to slow down the aging process. But that's also going to help with your joint health, especially if you have arthritis. It'll also help with brain function, help with cardiovascular, immune system, and endocrine system. So take the heirloom barley. Now you get all the benefits of heirloom barley in gladiator barley, but you get one extra benefit, and that is musculature. By doing resistance training, it'll help you to build muscle. Now you can stack the gladiator barley and the heirloom barley. I'm sorry, the gladiator barley and the boomer boost, or the heirloom barley with the boomer boost. And by doing that, you're also controlling your A1C levels. So you're controlling your blood glucose levels. So take my advice, get the heirloom barley or the gladiator barley and stack it with the boomer boost. It's a great combo to slow down the aging process. Another thing that you should be doing, another way to detoxify your body, is to take zeolite. Zeolite will bind to heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals and allow you to urinate them out within 6 to 8 hours. Take 3 small drops underneath your tongue, drink filtered water, do that daily. Now, some people prefer to do just a heavy detox once or twice a year. So do that 3 drops or 5 drops underneath your tongue, drink filtered water, do that until the bottle's done, and do that once or twice a year. But with this type of zeolite, you can do it daily. 3 small drops underneath your tongue, drink the filtered water. Very easy. And by detoxifying your body, you're going to help with your endocrine system and your immune system. You're going to notice that your gut biome will improve. You'll notice that your skin will improve. Another way, like I said, to detoxify your body daily is to take the heirloom barley or the gladiator barley. So either way. So there's 2 ways to detoxify your body from my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Now, another great supplement that I have that you can take separately or stack it with the gladiator barley is Myotrol. Myotrol will help with the gene expression to build muscle. It has polyphenols, flavonoids, and lignans that will help you to express the genes that build muscle and maintain muscle. You'll notice that once you turn about age 40, you can't build muscle as easily as when you were younger, and you start to atrophy. Well, to prevent that, and to gain muscle, to prevent atrophy and gain the muscle that you need, take the Myotrol, do some resistance training. If you're an athlete, younger or older, you will benefit from taking Myotrol to help with strengthening for your sport. Now, you can stack it with the gladiator barley to get further strength gains. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Myotrol. Use discount 5, all caps, discount number 5, you get $5 off any order. All right, I want to go over how MS Now is covering the reflective pool turning green now in Washington, D.C. And like I said earlier in this video, this is an echo, a biblical echo of the curse that's coming. In Egypt, there was the sea turned red. You know, the Nile turned red. So now, Washington, D.C., it's turning green. It's embarrassing Trump. There's this almost inability to solve problems that's starting to emerge within the Trump administration. This is an emerging aspect of this curse that I said is starting to happen. This curse that emergence of that curse started in 2023, just slowly boiling to the surface. But it's going to get worse as we get closer to 9/11, 2026, all the way into October of 2027. And there's going to be another hit of curse in October of 2027, all the way into roughly October, the first week of October of 2028. So this curse that I'm talking about is going to last for 2 years. And we're just starting to see the early signs of it. And I would not be surprised that those 2 tumultuous years, 2027 and 2028, and part of 2026, the end of 2026, could be very negative for the financial markets.
Hey, before you skip this ad, this is John Ossoff in Georgia, and I'm the only Democratic U.S. Senator running for re-election in a state that Donald.
In fact, Greenwater is the most visually arresting metaphor for the entire Trump era is getting worse by the day. We might call it the president's Green Watergate. Yesterday, we showed you what a leaky, peeling, algae-infested mess the reflecting pool in Washington has become, thanks to Donald Trump's obsessive, costly attempts to turn it into a monument to, let's be honest here, his own brilliance, just in time for him to hold a MAGA rally that is doubling as a 4th of July celebration for the whole country on the National Mall. Well, here was the scene today, as workers in hip waders worked feverishly to get the green out one way or another. This is a crash program at this point, folks, okay? There's lots of frenetic activity. It has included pumping the soupy sage-colored fluid through a system of hoses to be discharged just down a storm drain. That, the man who came to Washington promising to drain the swamp is now swamping the drains. And there are the chunks of bottom paint peeling up the surface. It turns out this is a waterproof material provided by the company that makes Rhino lining. It's a spray-on liner for...
You know what's amazing? Because I watch a lot of news. For MS Now, and probably CNN, but it's not as obvious with CNN. But it's MS Now, it's very obvious. You listen to Mad Cow, Rachel Maddow, Mad Cow. Mad Cow has a certain way that she talks that's annoying. But listen to the actual words and where the inflection points are and the undulation of the speech. And listen to this clown and then the lawyer that is always talking trash about Trump that I believe he went to the University of Michigan for law school. They're using a script and they're reading it from the teleprompter. It's the same script. What Mad Cow says and what this guy is saying is the same. Just listen to what he's saying, how he's saying it. It's very similar. So it's manufactured news. It's all about manufactured news. That's why I like unscripted, just tell how you feel. Yeah, you may say a word wrong this way or that way, or maybe you lose a thread of logic or lose your thread of thought, but at least you're genuine. Instead of reading a teleprompter and everyone sounds like Mad Cow.
The beds of pickup trucks they apply to the reflecting pool doesn't look like it's working so well. It is just floating in the water now, except for the bits being taken as souvenirs by visitors, and there's actually quite a bit of that happening. In fact, Emma's now spoke to a few visitors in the pool
What
today.
they should have done was sealed it like a pool, put fish in it, create an ecosystem in the reflective pool, so you have algae eaters, and you have carp, and you have different types of fish. The kids around the pool maybe even could feed it, whatever. But you can use nature to keep the algae plume controlled. That's what should have happened. Instead, they were experimenting with different sealants, and for whatever reason, Trump felt that people maybe should be swimming in it or whatever. Just use nature as the answer. Now they want to pump in hydrogen peroxide and chlorine and all this stuff to try to get rid of the algae. Well, all they had to do was put fish in there, freshwater fish, and algae eaters, and snails, and that sort of thing.
Most were not impressed.
Part of it is sort of an olive green, and then there's this murky blackish color. And then if you look a little closer here, it's more of a lime green.
There's some people cleaning over there, and we saw the water come out. It looks straight like Mountain Dew. For me, it's not the money necessarily. It's the
Embarrassment.
national embarrassment of it. Oh, good piece there. Taxpayer souvenir.
Here is a series of aerial photographs of the pool from Reuters in the 2 weeks since they started filling the thing with water. It has gone from American flag blue, as Trump wanted, to pea green, to the point where you can actually see the bottom paint peeling and lifting toward the surface. It's not supposed to do that. That stuff has just been on there for a few weeks, less than 2 weeks. Of course, in absolutely true Trumpian form, no one in the Mad King's government can tell the king the truth about what we all see with our own eyes.
And I have not heard anything from, as of this recording, I have not heard anything from Trump about this fiasco. Trump can't go to the American public and say, it was under my watch, I did it wrong, we're going to fix it. Take responsibility. If you want to be a real leader, get a piece of paper and a pencil and write this down. Take responsibility. Take ownership.
Department of Interior, which oversees the National Mall, and the National Park Service is in the Department of Interior, posted, quote, "The reflecting pool water is crystal clear, and our National Park Service team is now vacuuming up the dead algae resting on the bottom of some parts of the reflecting pool, just like the destroyed Iranian Navy resting on the bottom of the Persian Gulf." They included a photo of the pool taken from the water level, where the only color you can really see is the reflection of the sky. Like, that's the one shot you can get of this pool where it looks like that. The department added another photo from a similar angle, saying it showed how, and I quote here, and this is a phrase that will haunt me until I die, how the nanobubbler technology in vacuuming have been incredibly effective, making the water crystal clear with the American flag blue coating shining brightly on the bottom of the pool. That, of course, is obviously not true. What is true is if you take photos from those exact angles, you get nothing but a blue sky reflect on the surface. But as you just heard from actual visitors, anyone who walks up to the reflecting pool sees this. And that infamous nanobubbler technology the Trump administration is touting, well, there's new reporting on that. Turns out this story of Trump governance isn't just about vanity or incompetence or now up is down gaslighting, right? The pool is clear, it's all working. There is also, of course, because it is Trump, an old-fashioned corruption act. Because the government has now handed out not one, but two no-bid contracts for work on the reflecting pool. The first was at least $13 million to paint that blue sealant that is now obviously peeling. But the New York Times, which has been doing great reporting on this, now reports there was another contract awarded in April. Now, this one was for $1.7 million to an Ohio company to install cleaning systems in the reflecting pool, which at the level of concept seems like a good idea. Did they do a bang-up job? That company is called Green Water Services. I am not making that up. The Times reports that Green Water Services, the actual name of the actual company that has helped to turn the water green in the reflecting pool, so it looks like Mountain Dew, is owned by a holding company. That holding company is in turn controlled by the gentleman you see there. His name is John J. Carafo, and this is him in 2002. Who is John J. Carafo, you ask? Well, I'm glad you asked. According to the Times, John J. Carafo is a donor to Donald Trump and a neighbor to Mar-a-Lago, the president's private club employee. In fact, Green Water Services lists Carafo's Palm Beach mansion as its address in Florida corporate records, the Times noted. Neither Carafo nor the company responded to the Times. They report that Carafo's family business was in developing shopping centers, but he branched into other industries, including aerospace. Now, here's an interesting little detail from his past. In 2001, Carafo pleaded guilty to conspiracy to bribe Ohio Congressman James Crapigan, one of the most flagrantly and notoriously corrupt congressmen of all time. His plea related to arranging nearly $27,000 in repairs on Trafficant's houseboat and then buying said houseboat from him for another $26,000. All in all, $53,000. That's all why Trafficant was lobbying.
So what's the takeaway from this? All right, we have a problem at the reflector pool in front of the Lincoln Memorial. It's not going to plan. It needs to be redone. It has to be cleaned. I personally think it needs to have fish and snails and algae eaters in it. So that needs to be fixed. It probably will not get fixed before the 4th of July. But it needs to be fixed. It's going to cost more money. Trump needs to take ownership of it. He won't. But this is to embarrass Trump. This is to slowly show the unraveling of his administration. Trump is a very lucky person. He's not an intellectual. He has a lot of street smarts. So he's smart. He's not intellectual. It's two different things. And it's better to be lucky than to be good. Because you could be good and not lucky and nothing happens. But if you're not good, but you're lucky, good things happen. All right? So it's better to be lucky than good. This is part of the reason why these over-intellectuals out there that think they know it all because of some discipline, you see this a lot in physics. But the thing is that you have these know-it-all eggheads, but yet their life is not very successful because they're not lucky. They may be good at something, but they're not lucky. So it's better to be lucky than good. Trump, most of his life, has been lucky. But as this whole fiasco with Iran is blowing up in his face, and he's not getting the job done, and potentially he's kicking the can down the road for another president to deal with something even worse, that luck is going to run out. And there's going to be a series of things going all the way to the end of his administration, 47, that will show that there's embarrassment, there's corruption, and that we potentially have seen peak Trump. And then it's downhill from here. Now, I saw a quick snippet of an article, I think it was The Economist, but it could have been Bloomberg, that was stating that the biographer for Trump that's chronicling his presidency, 45 and 47, he made a statement stating that he felt that it's downhill from here with Trump's administration, that things are going to start to devolve. So you're kind of seeing this metaphorically through these initiatives that he's trying to do. The East Wing construction, it's a fiasco. The tariffs, fiasco. Bringing back manufacturing, fiasco. Now, I'm a pro-Trump guy, and I'm saying this. I'm not anti-Trump. But you have to be honest. Is he successful right now? The answer is no. The game's not over yet. But if you're looking at a baseball game and it's, the bottom of the fifth inning, that's where we're at right now with America and under Trump. We're losing the game. Doesn't mean we can't win, but we're not in good shape at the moment. So manufacturing hasn't come back. The prices, absolute price of goods and services are up. So there's two types of inflation: the absolute inflation in dollar amount and the inflation rate. And keep that in mind. They're trying to keep the inflation rate low. But yet the Federal Reserve is saying that maybe they need to bring up the target to 3%. Well, that would bake in more inflation. So it's going to hurt more middle-class Americans. So inflation has been a problem that they can't control. And then on top of that, with the tariffs, what's going on with that? That's a fiasco because of the legality. Who's getting tariffed with what? What's the rate? That's up in the air. oh, taxes, you had a tax cut and more money came back to middle Americans. Your $2,000 check or whatever it was. Yeah, you had to put that in your gas tank because of the fiasco that's going on with Iran. Now, I do think that we need to destroy the IRGC and the theocratic regime and work with the international community to allow a constitutional republic to be born in Iran. And the United States should help that along. The GCC should help that along. It's very possible. Israel won't like that because they want expansionism. Now, again, if you can sustain your expansionism, you deserve it. If you can't sustain your expansionism, you don't deserve it. And I've already mentioned why on this show. But the point that I'm making is that Trump is starting to devolve. And these big initiatives that he wanted to do are in a state of flux. The reflective pool, tariffs, inflation, the East Wing, the war in the Middle East, what's going on with manufacturing. The curse is coming.
That's on behalf of, and I'm not making this up either, a laser guidance system that Carapo was selling. He got leniency for testing fine against the congressman. Now, would it shock you to learn that Carapo was also an early Trump supporter? Here you see him at a Trump golf resort in Palm Beach. And back in 2016, when Trump skipped a Republican debate to hold a rally in Iowa, this is very early in the election, he made a big deal of it. And he sort of said he was raising money for veterans. Well, he gave his donor and neighbor a shout out.
JJ Cafaro from Florida and from Cleveland. He's a man who made a lot of money in Cleveland, does a good job, and a fantastic man. $50,000. JJ, thank you.
He made a lot of money. I'm sure his laser guidance systems were great too, as great as his green water nanobubble ozone technology. The White House and the Interior departments of the president was not involved in the selection of his neighbor's company to clean up the reflecting pool. I'm sure it was just a random coincidence. I'm sure they had fleets of civil servants going through to figure out who the best person was. And it just happened to be that guy who we have pictures of at Mar-a-Lago or Trump Golf Club. What we do know for sure is this reflecting pool is an obsession for Trump. The reason we're covering it right now, and I will admit, I've done more reflecting pool coverage in the last week than the entirety of my previous career at Harangue, is because it's about all Donald Trump has talked about for the last month. Anytime anyone talks to him, it's about the reflecting pool or the ballroom. Occasionally, he'll talk about the war he started.
Improving the aesthetics of your life, improving your living environment, improving your city, improving the country. That's important. So Trump focusing on improving the environment instead of the mean reversion of kind of ho-hum in the degradation of society. We can improve our livelihood. See, when you live in a clean environment, when your city isn't just filled with filth and graffiti, you have a better positive outlook. The kids will have a better positive outlook. The future generations will have a better positive outlook. So your environment in your home, in your community, even in your mind, super important. So Trump focusing on that is the right thing to do. But take ownership if it fails. If whatever you're doing costs too much, it's not effective, techniques aren't working right, whatever, take ownership of it. So Trump focusing on cleaning up Washington, D.C., while other presidents, Republican and Democrat, weren't willing to do it, is a good endeavor. It's a positive endeavor. But take ownership when it fails. This is important. Trump doesn't take ownership. Trump should have gone on stage and said, we have a problem with the reflected pool and the contractors are going to fix it at no cost to the American taxpayer. That's what he should have done.
It is entirely possible he spent a lot of time working the details out on the phone. Especially you consider this is a guy who, we've just learned from new reporting in a forthcoming book, is literally super gluing gold accents and challenge coins up on the doors and wall of the White House himself. Do you think he outsourced these decisions? Do you think he delegated on those? No, he probably micromanaged this just like he's done with the destruction of the East Wing for his ballroom and his UFC birthday bash. And as with those vanity projects, this one's turned into a corrupt, incompetent, expensive.
That UCF thing was very unpresidential. It should have never happened. Should have never happened. I think he should have had something that was a little bit more classy for his birthday, a little bit more classical, maybe classical music, maybe ballroom dancing outside event, but instead of motorcycles jumping in the air and cage match fighting. This is not presidential. It was bread and circus. And that's what Trump is. It's all show. It's all show. Yeah, and again, I'm not a never Trumper. I supported Trump 3 times. I voted for him 3 times. But Trump is failing right now. But the game's not over. He could be successful. But I'm concerned that because he was trying to take an off-ramp and poorly managed the Iran war, that this country will go into a series of curses.
Trying desperately to cover up.
Mm-hmm. To be totally honest, there's nothing that he said was wrong. It's the way he said it, teleprompt, and everybody sounds on MS Now like mad cow when they're doing their op-ed. But Trump did fail in this regard. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the omega-3. Omega-3 will help with your cardiovascular health. It'll help to bring down inflammation and help you to control your lipid profile. It helps to bring down LDL levels and increase your HDL levels. When you do that, you have less plaque formation, better blood flow, better cardiovascular health, better perfusion of your organs, including your brain. So improving your cardiovascular fitness and your health and your blood flow will improve the blood flow to the hippocampus. Your memory will be maintained and improved. When you reduce the blood flow to your brain, you get early onset of dementia. Really bad. Trust me. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the digestive enzyme complex. Digestive enzyme complex reduces the load on your pancreas, helps you to digest carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. You'll be able to absorb your nutrients more efficiently. And digestive enzyme complex has bromelain. And bromelain helps to reduce clotting. So breaking up those clots help with your cardiovascular health and help with your digestion. And oh, by the way, this is the reason why I said take digestive enzyme complex during the crisis in 2020. Because we all remember about the clotting issue. Magnesium and zinc. Magnesium and zinc helps with brain function and helps to boost up your immune system. Take it every day. And you can stack it with vitamin C and magnesium. This will help with your skin. They'll cross-link with the collagen to improve your dermal layer for your skin. It helps to boost up your immune system, and it helps with brain function. Magnesium is super important. Stack them together for synergistic benefit. And lastly, ashwagandha root helps to control your cortisol levels and your blood glucose levels. Helps to boost up the immune system and help with cardiovascular system. Lignans soaks up free radicals, brings down inflammation, helps with the immune system and your endocrine system. And by soaking up those free radicals and bringing down that inflammation, you're helping your cardiovascular system and your brain function. You're helping with your joint health by reducing that inflammation. Get a lot of benefits by taking lignans. You get an extra benefit when you stack it with ashwagandha root and turmeric. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off anywhere. The link is in the description of this video. Click the link, go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Let's listen into Bloomberg's perspective on net network.
Wait, you don't write anything down after conversation?
This is Pocket. I never go anywhere without it. At the tap of a button.
What's the latest that you've heard about that ceasefire, that fragile ceasefire that went in place yesterday?
Well, to judge from that news summary, it would appear that US envoys, albeit not the vice president, one tier below, are headed out to Switzerland, the venue for those planned talks, as well as potentially the Iranian foreign minister. So it would appear that rather than scuppering this entire diplomacy, what we had for Iran yesterday was a shot across the bow, if you like, not a parting shot, a warning shot. It would appear that the Israelis stayed put in Lebanon. It would appear that the Americans are not yet ready to insist that the Israelis move out of Lebanon, something that would really unleash a crisis, perhaps an unprecedented crisis in recent years between the allies. So I expect that in the coming hours, perhaps by the close of the weekend, those talks in Lucerne will have started out at some level.
Dan, I also want to ask you about the rhetoric. We talked when you were with us last hour about this interesting turn in the U.S.-Israeli relationship. But you also have your national security minister giving this kind of extraordinary tweet on Lebanon, where he wrote, "With all due respect to all of Lebanon must burn!" ! With all due respect to the Americans, Israel must make clear to the entire world that the blood of our sons and security of our citizens are not forfeit. All of Lebanon must burn. That, of course, was responded to by the Iranian foreign minister, saying essentially this is not a rant by a random lunatic. You know, this is a public post by the national security of Israel's regime. Talk to us about the feelings inside the Knesset, inside Israel. Is this causing further divisions within Netanyahu's own party as to what to do following this MOU? Where do folks stand?
Well, I think the Israeli minister you cited, he's the far rightist. He's given such rhetoric. In fact, it's come to be expected of him. And it's worth remembering that Israel's in an election year. There's an election 4 months on, so he could actually have his eye on his constituency when he makes those threats, although I think many Israelis would share that opinion. Now, if you get past the rather baroque rhetoric, what he's referring to is Israel's delimitation when it comes to actions against Hezbollah, specifically avoiding Beirut, generally avoiding inland areas, except the Bekaa Valley, which was bombed by Israel yesterday, and restraining those attacks to Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, where Israel has created this 6-mile deep buffer zone. Some of the Israeli firmament think that shouldn't be the case. They think Hezbollah is not only undeterred, but it would have been emboldened by this MOU, which has basically been a lifeline for its sponsor in Iran, and stands to bring funding, new weaponry to Hezbollah. Hezbollah that until very recently was on the ropes in Lebanon. Indeed, within Israel, there is a great sense of shock and disappointment in this turn of events over the last week or week and a half. Trump plowing ahead, effectively trying to get the Americans, the United States, out of this war that he launched together with Israel in full concert. If I'm not mistaken, there was full parity in terms of the number of Air Force sorties carried out in Iran between Israel and the United States. But all of a sudden, in the last 2 weeks, Israel has not only not been included in those talks with Iran, it hasn't always been briefed on those talks with Iran. So the Israelis feel they've been given short shrift. They're in the Middle East, they'll remain in the Middle East. They took quite a bit of the brunt of the Iranian missiles during that attack.
Think about this all right. It is true that the Trump administration is slightly decoupling itself from Israel, especially with the negotiations with Iran. Okay, that's true. Most of the war, there's been heavy coordination. But it's also true before the war started that our U.S. military brass generals and officers below were working with their counterparts in Israel, and the Israelis were spying on our troops, our service members, our officers. And when our generals caught wind of the spying, they told them, the United States generals told the Israeli generals to cease and desist. It was unacceptable what they were doing. So the Israelis were spying on the United States. In addition, what did Rubio say before we started the war with Iran? The Israelis were going to do an offensive, and we were concerned about the counterstrike by the Iranians on infrastructure in our bases in the region. So we had to go in. So you got to take a look at the whole mosaic here. Israel has forced our hand into the situation. Now, I still believe, independent of Israel, I still believe the United States should have destroyed IRGC, level Tehran with gravity bombs, create absolute destruction, and control the oil and gas in that region. The island of Karg Island, and that whole pipeline system, and control the Strait of Hormuz. Our military should have used that as part of the strategic mission, on top of overthrowing the theocratic regime, destroying the IRGC, and down the road, laying the seeds for a constitutional republic for the seculars within Iran. That's what should have happened. Trump thought he was going to be able to do this in just 3 weeks and not use ground forces, and he wasted a ton of time. So the Israelis did force our hand into this, but we should have completed the mission. All right? America pacifists don't think we should have gone in at all. So this is where the nuance is. The United States should have destroyed the IRGC. It's too late now. We've lost time, lost money. We don't even have the munitions, because we have to make sure we have enough munitions just in case we have to defend Taiwan. So we've lost all this precious time and the money involved and the fatigue, the military fatigue that's involved in this with deployment. So the Israelis aren't honest brokers here. They're not. So why should we be coordinating with them right now? They can't be trusted. That doesn't mean that the Hezbollah can be trusted or the Iranians. They can't be. And that doesn't mean that Hezbollah shouldn't be destroyed. Hezbollah should be destroyed. But the Israelis think that they can wag the dog. And we need to teach the Israelis, enough is enough. You're going to have to suck up the inflation because of your war effort in the region. The American taxpayers should stop funding Israel, stop funding Palestine, because we do both. And we should stop selling the weaponry, including the weapons for their Iron Dome, and see what they do. And I'm willing to bet they back off. But even if they don't back off, if they can maintain dominance in the region and land expansion for their national security, they deserve it. A country deserves it if you can maintain it. It's that simple. If you can't maintain it, you don't deserve it. Palestinians can't maintain it, they don't deserve it. And it doesn't matter what 3,000-year promises were. It's what can be maintained on the battlefield. That's the real law of the jungle. Now, the problem with this whole fiasco in the Middle East is everyone has goldfish memory and they only focus on the immediate. Maybe they go out a few months or weeks. Let's not pretend as American citizens that the Israelis can be trusted. They can't be. They cannot be trusted. But Hezbollah should be destroyed, right? So that's the nuance. I'm not an American pacifist. First, America first pacifist. I'm an America first expansionist.
26 people killed in Israel during that war by Iranian missiles. And yes, Israel expects a potentially generational face-off with Iran, its arch foe, and more immediately, more pressingly, with Hezbollah, which is Iran's vanguard in Lebanon. So what you have is a very delicate, very unwieldy triangulation here of these peace talks. Iran will never make peace with Israel. It doesn't even like saying the word Israel. It generally prefers to call it the Zionist entity or such like. And at the same time, the Israelis are being called upon, while not being part of the MOU, to abide by the MOU in terms of what Iran, their arch enemy, would like to see them do or not do in Lebanon. It's very unwieldy. The Israelis are basically laying down their battle lines. They're saying...
This is what Trump needs to do. What's going on in Hezbollah with Israel, that's their own deal. Whoever wins, wins. If Hezbollah wins and takes northern Israel, so be it. If Israel takes northern Lebanon, destroys Hezbollah, so be it. But if you don't open up the damn strait, then we are going to destroy Tehran. That's what Trump should say. It should say, forget about what Israel's doing. Be worried about what we do, and you will not have Tehran. Clock is ticking. You got 72 hours, or you're going to start hearing the bombs drop. That's what he should be saying. It doesn't cost a lot for gravity bombs. And we could easily level Tehran in 48 hours.
Bullets and with blood, Israeli and Lebanese blood, they're willing and they must stay in southern Lebanon for the protection of their northern communities.
And quickly before we let you go, what is your latest read on the status of the relationship between President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu? I should say, notably, we haven't heard from Prime Minister Netanyahu. He hasn't outwardly criticized what's happened here to the degree that his cabinet members have, be they on the far right or otherwise. What do you make of that? We heard the president saying to Axios in recent hours that he keeps Bibi sane, in his words. We had Sarah Eisen of CNBC traveling to Jerusalem, where she asked the prime minister just about the status of that relationship on the heels of a call in which he was cursed at by the president of the United States. What is your read in the minute we have left with you just of the status of that relationship?
This is extraordinarily embarrassing for Netanyahu. He's also running for re-election. He's really branded himself as not only Mr. Security for Israel, but Mr. Statecraft, especially when it comes to handling the United States, massaging US public opinion, whoever's in the Oval Office. He's made very few, I think only twice appeared in public since this MOU was signed. He has also said in those statements that it's time to work on re-establishing, replenishing the US-Israeli relationship. However, I think what he's really hoping for is for this to blow over, for the US president to find another focus for his vitriol. It's clear that Trump feels bruised by this war in Iran. It didn't go the way he had hoped. Perhaps it didn't go the way he'd been promised or reassured by Netanyahu. There is some bad blood there, clearly. However, we've seen Trump is transactional, and frankly, he can turn on a dime, including on very recent critics or subjects of his criticism. I imagine there will be a restoration of those ties. The question is whether it will be enough to salvage Netanyahu's career and his re-election prospects.
Netanyahu needs to go. He's like beyond his buy date. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the vitamin D3. Vitamin D3 is a dual purpose supplement. It will help to absorb calcium, to help build denser bone when you do resistance training. It'll help your cardiovascular health. It'll help with your immune system. And also it will help with gene expression. It's a gene expression cofactor, so your cells will perform properly. Good night formula. Take it every night. It has tryptophan, melatonin, GABA, and passion flower to allow you to get into 3 to 5 cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep. And by doing that regularly, you're improving your brain function. You're detoxifying your central nervous system. You're consolidating memory, and you're going to be well rested. When you have good sleep regularly, you slow down the aging process. Very simple. Take it every day, every night. Resveratrol. Resveratrol helps with youthful gene expression. It also helps to get rid of cells that are in senescence. Resveratrol soaks up free radicals, helps to boost up your energy levels by improving that mitochondria. Helps with the basal layer of your skin and stacks really well with C60. Slow down the aging process by taking resveratrol every day and stack it with C60 to get added benefits. Vitamin B complex, if you're 40 years of age or older, take vitamin B complex. It will help to boost up your energy levels. The first 4 B vitamins helps with the electron transport chain to boost up your ATP. Now, if you notice that people are getting older, they have less energy. You'll get more energy by taking B complex. Your mitochondria will be healthier. Your cellular metabolism will improve. So your organ systems will perform better. And vitamin B12 will help to protect neurons. Very important, especially since we went through the crisis of 2020. There's a lot of people that are going to get early onset of dementia. So you better start protecting your neurons. Probiotics, either the veggie cap version or the powder version. And with a good probiotic, you're improving your gut biome. That will help many different parts of your body. It'll help your skin. It'll help you to sleep better, improve your memory. You'll get rid of brain fog by having a good gut biome. You'll be able to absorb your nutrients better. You'll have lower inflammation at the gut level. Your mucosal layer at the gut will be thicker. You'll have higher concentrations of IgA. Your immune system in the gut would be better. You improve your metabolism. So please go to my store and get the probiotic, either in the veggie cap form or the powder form. Sorry about that. So get the probiotics. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off any order. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Now let's listen to Victor Hansen, how Trump should enforce his memorandum with Iran.
The memorandum of understanding, it was a very short 2-page document, easy to read through, dealt with largely the peace agreement. And they, you know what I thought was really interesting? They emphasized Lebanon. It must have been written in there 3 times that they're making a peace deal, but also for Lebanon. And the Straits of Hormuz will be open, and the Iranians will give up their nuclear material and not build any more nukes. And then the sanctions. And I thought that it seemed kind of light on the sanctions was the only thing that I noticed, although there's lots of criticism out there. I was wondering your thoughts.
Well, you got to start with I think a lot of people are missing a couple of premises. Number one, we don't know the extent of damage in Iran. No ground troops, no embedded reporters, no news, no internet there. Trump said $1 trillion or $2 trillion, maybe even if it's $500 billion. It's a 50-year investment in military nuclear industrial complex, and a lot of it's ruined. And they have been embargoed, and they've been sanctioned. Their assets are frozen. They're losing $400 million a day in revenue. So they're in bad shape. We don't know how bad they are. That's number one. Number two, Iran is not a protectorate of the United States. It's 93 million people. It's 1.5 times the size of Texas. And we don't have a good record of going in on the ground and managing a country. We saw that in Afghanistan. We saw that in Iraq. 7,500 dead. $2 trillion.
Why do we keep repeating the same mistakes when it comes to military conflicts? Maybe it's because we stopped studying war. Victor Davis hands
$2 trillion, and look at the Taliban is still in control. So we're not going to go in there and manage it. If you're not going to go in there and manage it, then your control over that regime is limited, especially when it has patrons that are nuclear like Russia and China, and they want to get back in. So my point is simply this. Can you stop them from enriching? Yes. You can say, we're going to bomb the moment we see you tamper with Pickaxe Mountain or any of those. areas. And can we stop them from closing the straits? Yes, you have to open the straits, or we're not going to lift the blockade. The key to all this memorandum of understanding is, will he use force when they inevitably cheat? So a week from now, if they think, well, we got a lot of concessions, we're going to send 3 missiles into the hated UAE, and we're going to send a couple more into Kuwait and have a big Shia rested population.
We might understand.
Well, that was just a love cut. It won't work. He's got to say, okay, you sent 3, you're going to lose 10 bridges. You sent 3 against Kuwait, you're going to lose a power grid. He hasn't done that yet. People forget there's a whole list of targets that Obama went after in Libya and a whole typology that Clinton went after. We were in the same place in Serbia in 1999. It was not working after 60 days. We limited, and then all of a sudden Clinton went wild. All the bridges gone on the Danube, the grid. I wouldn't do it. He hits museums, he hits hospital, he hit everything. Anytime he heard they were using something that he thought he wouldn't hit, they hit. And that stopped him after 78 days. My point is, they have a whole list of targets that we haven't even touched. But you can shut down that entire economy in 2 days if you hit them. You take out 2 big power plants in Tehran, and you're in big trouble. And you take out the power. Where's all these missile factories? Where are they getting their power? It's on the grid. You hit them, and they're in trouble. So we can do that. And if he's going to do it, it doesn't really matter. All he has to say is, we can't control what you do, but if we decide you're funding terrorists that attack us, if we find that you're building missiles that are launching, he doesn't have to have them in the memorandum of agreement. If you dare, he should have the nuclear enrichment, and he should have the straits. Meanwhile, he's telling the UAE and the Israelis and the Turks, hey, you guys, you all have avenues for pipelines. Get to it. So double your capacity, Saudi, to ship out the Red Sea. Triple your capacity, UAE, you're on the right side of the Strait of Hormuz. Go straight into the Persian Gulf and double that. And then Turkey, get a long pipeline into the oil fields. You can do it. And Israel, cut a deal and go right out of Haifa. And do it now, so the next time they do it, we're not over a barrel. And I think they're doing that. Final thing is, we don't care what the left says, because on one day he's Hitler and the next day he's Neville Chamberlain. Hakeem Jeffries can't figure that out. Oh, he's a chicken. He tacoed out. Trump always chickens out the next day. He's Neville Chamberlain. Oh, we didn't get anything. Oh, this was a useless preemptive war that was we're striking a school, all this stuff. It's just whatever Trump's for, that you don't pay any attention to it. But on the right, what they're doing is they're getting attacked in 2 places. So the Steve Bannon, Tucker, Candace, Megyn Kelly, podcasters, and some politicians are angry that they did anything at all. So now it's like, we didn't want you to do anything, but now you haven't done anything. They've done a lot.
This is what I mean by the America First pacifists. They didn't want to go into Iran. Well, no, we needed to go into Iran and destroy it. Unfortunately, we didn't do it. We went in and didn't do what we needed to do. America First expansionism is what our founding fathers wanted. Not this horse crap of, well, we're just going to be dealing with our domestic policies and not worry about it. And you know what's strange about Stephen Bannon, is that he keeps on saying that China is a major problem, and that it looks to me that he supports Taiwan and our freedom of navigation in that region of the world. Well, wait a minute here. That's not an America First pacifist philosophy. So why is it that he doesn't want to push and destroy the center of terror, which is promulgating from Iran? But yet Stephen Bannon is willing to be America First expansionist in the Pacific region. That's not consistent. It's because he doesn't like Israel. He's playing to a base that is anti-Semitic. That's what's really happening.
They keep thinking that this is like the Obama deal when Iran was ascended, convinced that Obama wouldn't lift a finger militarily, and they had all this infrastructure. They're devastated. It's not this. They're not 2016, and Trump isn't Obama. He's got a lot more assets at his disposal. He doesn't have some crazy idea that he's going to champion a Shia alternate crescent to rival the moderate Arab regimes in Israel and empower Damascus, Tehran, Gaza, Beirut. That was Obama, Valerie Jarrett's, Ben Rhodes idea. So there's a lot of assets, but people have to realize that he's under a lot of pressure. If he loses the House, and the history says 38 out of the last 41 midterms, the End Party lost seats. If he loses the House, number one, they're going to impeach him on day one. I don't mean that literally, but it's going to start. Number two, they're going to call in the entire Trump family, and they have the power of subpoena, and they're going to tie him. So he's getting House members, and they're saying to him, believe it or not, Mr. President, given our redistricting that we're going to beat these guys, the red is going to win, and given the racial gerrymandering, it's going to stop some of that. And given that no one likes this socialist agenda that they're radical candidates are promoting, and given that the price of oil is going down $75 a barrel, 65 is break even. They're down to $4 a gallon, below $4. It was only, I think, $3.30. They're saying to President, we can win. We have a chance of doing the incredible. We can win, but you can't stay in there too long. If you stay in there too long and you have to and the price of oil goes up, we're dead. So cut a deal, and then if you have to do something, just do it a day or two at a time, and keep the strait open. So he's under that pressure.
Spread your money across multiple.
With that,
this almost feels illegal to know if you're a side sleeper. What I've discovered could save you from a mass.
Victor, let's go ahead and get to the memorandum.
Joined now by CBS News foreign policy and national.
All right, we're going to go to Face the Nation, and they were interviewing McMaster about the Iran deal and what he doesn't like about it. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nanosilver toothpaste. This has no fluoride. It'll help to whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, reduce inflammation at the gum line, improve your gum line, neutralize because of the structural nanosilver. And with good oral hygiene, you're helping your cardiovascular health too, and your valvular health. Super important. Get a few tubes of this toothpaste. It's the best toothpaste that you can get. It has a structural nanosilver, and it will neutralize. Super important to take during the cold season. I also have structural nanosilver gels. I have it in the tube form or the quick dispenser form. Take either one. It's dual purpose. You can put it on a cut, an abrasion, or a minor burn to help to heal it quicker. You can use it as a daily skincare. If you have allergies, lightly coat your nostrils when you're outside. So you're neutralizing the allergen. If you're cleaning around the house, or the garage, or the basement, or the yard, lightly coat your nostrils. And during the cold season, put it on your hands, around your mouth, around your eyes, around your ears, and lightly coat your nostrils. And guess what? It'll help to mitigate. So please, go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the structural nanosilver gels. Very important to have in your home and at work. Also, because of the allergy season, get the drops or the lozenges that are made from structural nanosilver. It'll help to protect your oral pharynx. You can get it in cherry flavor, orange splash, fortified with vitamin C, and Manuka honey. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off.
Security contributor H.R. McMaster is our former national security advisor, one of many in the first term of President Trump's presidency. H.R., always good to see you. So I think if this memorandum of an understanding could be summarized as a song, the title might be, "Is That All There Is?"
Yeah, Major, I agree. You know, I think we'll have to see how it's implemented, but from my perspective, it really cuts very significantly against U.S. interests, the interests of the Gulf states, and the interests of Israel. And I think the biggest problems with it are right in that first, number one of the 14, including Lebanon. I mean, why the heck should Iran have any say about what happens in Lebanon? And of course, this is all meant to protect Hezbollah, an organization that has terrorized, that has terrorized Israel and has destroyed that country. And actually, the government in Lebanon is taking a courageous stand, saying, "Hey, this isn't our war against Israel. We want to disarm Hezbollah." So it gives Hezbollah a shot in the arm. But the biggest thing to watch, I think, Major, is going to be how the cash flows into Iran. The Iranian regime was on the mat financially. They're about to not be able to not make payroll. The economy was in a shambles. They were severely weak and consistent. One of the key objectives going into this fight, which was to prevent Iran from being able to project power outside of its borders. If they use that money, as we know that they have in the past, to reconstitute their missile drone strike complex and to flow money into their terrorist proxies across the region, then, what the heck has this been for? So I really am concerned about the money. The vice president has said, hey, it's not going to be U.S. money released until they see progress. But as you've already mentioned in the reporting, just resuming the oil exports and then unfreezing Iranian assets, I think would be a huge and undeserved payout to a regime that has remained, in my view, permanently hostile to the great Satan, the United States.
This is the reason why wars only are won unconditionally. This is not unconditional surrender. And because of that, we didn't win the war. So stupid. I mean, just about everything that Trump has done in this term has been partial success or absolute failure.
Israel, they call it the cancerous oil. Their Arab neighbors, you have to remember, they fire almost 3,000 drones and missiles just at the UAE. So, hey, I think this could be really an outcome that cuts against U.S. interests in many ways.
So let's talk about the money in sequence. So when oil begins to be sold, as it will be with a straight reopening, which it clearly is, that's money that will go to Iran. The second stage is lifting of sanctions. That's 2. 3 could be the unfreezing rather of Iranian assets. That would be 3. 4 would be this $300 billion reconstruction fund. And the administration says it's not U.S. taxpayer dollars. You think the Iranians care about that? It's $300 billion coming from Gulf nations who are trying to get back in good graces with the Iranian regime that has now survived the strongest military assault it's ever gotten from Israel and America.
Trump bailed on this.
That's the 4 stages. And it's all money.
Yeah, and it has the ring of kind of capitulation. What also happens here is that other countries will not adhere to U.S. sanctions, and I think what you're already seeing is some of the Gulf states sliding some money under the table to Iran, because once they look kind of behind them, hey, who's got my back? After this massive onslaught against 14 different countries, maybe, and then say, well, the U.S. doesn't have my back. Then they go back to kind of a hedging strategy, with the Iranians, and trying to buy them off or to give them some financial benefit, ransom essentially. So what you have is, if they retain kind of the missile drone capability and the regime remains permanently hostile to their neighbors, to the U.S., to Israel, they retain coercive power over the global economy, and they hang this kind of sword of Damocles over the Gulf states' economic models. And so this empowers them. It empowers a regime that is a theocratic dictatorship hostile to humanity, I would say.
Let me ask you this before I let you go, because you were in the conversations in the first Trump administration. And when this conflict began on February 28th, the United States and Israel were very tightly aligned, very tightly aligned. And now that does appear to be under some stress. So much so that the vice president, J.D. Vance, told the New York Times in its podcast, talking about Israel, I quote him here, "You're a country of 9 million people. You can't just kill your way out of solving every single national security problem that you have." That's a pretty harsh statement. And it suggests a kind of divergence between the administration and Israel, which, if you'd asked the Iranians when this war began, do you think at the end of it, or near the end of it, America and Israel will be more divided than when they started? Iran would say probably not, but that'd be really great.
Well, I think the president was on the precipice of just a tremendous achievement by weakening the Iranian regime, by demonstrating to the Gulf states that the only true guarantor of their security was the United States. And Israel and the United States working together had profoundly weakened not only the regime in Iran and degraded its ability to protect power outside its borders, but its terrorist proxies as well. Now, that statement by the vice president, I think, is insensitive based on remembering what happened on October 7th. It was during the Biden administration that Iran was able to kind of unimpeded, reinforce the ring of fire around Israel, right? Building up the rockets that Hezbollah had, for example, to 150,000, preparing Hamas for that onslaught, supporting, a proxy army in Syria, supporting the Houthis and so forth. And then they lit that ring of fire on October 7, 2023, and Israel found itself in a six-front war. Also, to say that Israel can't continue operations in Lebanon, it makes no sense. I mean, look at the rockets and that Hezbollah is firing into Israel. Can you imagine if a terrorist organization, maybe cartels in Mexico, were firing rockets and missiles into southern Texas and forcing us to evacuate towns there and cities there? That would we just be restrained? I don't think so. So I think that there's a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of the enemy, Major. In 2017, when we brought options for Iran to President Trump, we had a fundamental assumption that there would not be peace in the region. There would not be peace between the U.S. and Iran until there was a fundamental change in the nature of that government. And I don't see evidence that that's happened.
H.R. McMaster, always a pleasure, sir. Thank you.
Hey, great to be with you.
You're going to start seeing lots of people going against Trump. And it's going to be on the Republican side. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the Max 35 or the Cleanse or the Max 14 to help boost up your innate immune system. Take a teaspoon a day, swish in your mouth, gargle about 20 seconds, and swallow. This will help to neutralize, improve the oral cavity, your oral pharynx, maintain a mucosal barrier, help the health of your epithelial cells. By doing that, it's going to help to boost up your immune system, and you're neutralizing because of the structural nanocell. So please go get Max 35, the Cleanse, or the Max 14 from my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. This protocol that I've been doing for over 6 years every day. So please go to my store. This will help to slow down the aging process because you're neutralizing and you're reducing chances of getting a cold or some other. You're also mitigating allergies. This will also help to neutralize allergens. And go to my store and get the collagen. This is dual purpose. This will help with your skin, your nails, your hair, your musculature, your bone density, and your joints. Take it every day. This is a month supply. You can mix it with soft foods like hummus or yogurt. You mix it in a smoothie, mix it with milk. Some people put it in coffee. You can mix it with filtered water, however you want to take it, but take it every day. Now, some people use a full scoop, others that are lower in terms of height and BMI, they take a half a scoop. So please go to my store, take the collagen. This will help to remodel the joint, especially if you stack it with the collagen, which I'll talk about shortly. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the great supplements that I offer, get healthy, and slow down the aging process. All right, we're gonna pivot to Bloomberg. ASML is a company that creates these very complex machines that create the chips, the wafers, especially for NVIDIA, but not just for NVIDIA. These machines are really important. Well, there were sanctions to prevent ASML to be sold or procured in China. Well, it seems as though China has these machines, which is very important to make the important chips for the next economy, especially regarding artificial intelligence. So let's listen in on what really is happening with ASML.
US is concerned that China may have got its hands on one of the top making machines made by Dutch giant ASML. ASML says they've never shipped an EUV chip machine to China. So let's get some analysis from Bloomberg senior market strategist Neil Campling. Neil, just bring us some more details on this scoop. How big a challenge is it for ASML?
It's certainly a challenge in trying to understand exactly what's happened, because ASML has said that they haven't shipped any of the machines out to China. So if we think ASML has actually had export restrictions to China for their leading technologies since way back since 2019. So it's happened for a long time now. If it were true that China had got hold of a machine, now it would obviously undermine Western export controls, and maybe in terms of the bigger picture, this is about the risks of shifting the global balance of AI, and I think the US will be concerned about the threat to the market dominance of the Western, if you like, the US tech giants. So. It's very difficult for China to have the most advanced chips, the most advanced microprocessors that they need for the AI toolset. So to produce frontier AI systems, you need the leading edge technology, and ASML really has a monopoly on that. So this situation it clearly is a concern to the US government if it's true. But it's unlikely that obviously that ASML has shipped any of the equipment there. But of course, there is a lot of equipment that's sitting next door to China in terms of Taiwan, given that TSMC is the dominant player in the leading chip technology.
Yeah, you kind of wonder what the ideal situation for the Trump administration would be in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is why, again, like stories yesterday around the US sort of progressing on collaboration of Intel producing more chips at home in the US. The key thing for the US is to stay ahead of the Chinese tech development for the leadership of that position. In terms of supply chains, the dominance around leading edge chips is still very much for TSMC and Samsung. And all the reports suggest that China is still like 5 years away from catching up. And of course, those companies are not standing still; they're continuing to advance their technologies. So it's difficult to see how China would catch up, even with the technology, if they did have alternative systems in place. But yeah, certainly. Many stories about domestic Chinese technology trying to accelerate their own systems, but it's difficult to see how they can do it without these really complex tools, which really is ASML's complete monopoly of the technology.
All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to pivot over to CNA, which I believe is a Singapore media station, stating that ASML denies allegations. Now, this media seems to usually align with the Chinese. Not always, but many times. But before we do that, let me just mention this new product that I have on my store, Super Strong Relief. This is a topical that will help to reduce pain. If you have a bruise, pulled muscle, tension headache, even arthritis. It works great. It works very fast. Within 90 seconds, it'll eliminate your pain or greatly reduce it. So if you have arthritis or a tension headache or even a pulled muscle, use Super Strong Relief. And this stacks really well with the collagen and the collagen as you're rebuilding your joint due to osteoarthritis or even a sports injury. So please go to my store, get the Super Strong Relief.
ASML, one of the world's largest suppliers of chip-making equipment, has denied allegations that it breached export controls concerning China. The Dutch firm's statement following a report that Washington had raised concerns that one of its top-of-the-line chip-making tools may be in China. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said to have made those suggestions about ASML's extreme ultraviolet lithography or EUV machines in a series of meetings with senior ASML executives. The device's alleged presence in China could be in violation of US-led export restrictions. The Dutch chipmaker explained that the EUV machines are made in limited quantity and require constant maintenance from employees. ASML's most advanced EUV systems are also the size of a school bus and weigh about 180,000 kilograms. The firm is amongst Europe's most valuable companies. It has previously fielded multiple Washington concerns lodged by Washington.
I would say that these machines that create the wafers, this ASML machine is probably the most complicated machine for manufacturing on the planet.
About national security. But this latest alleged situation could strain already tricky relations between the US and the European Union. China's lack of access to EUV tools is one of its biggest constraints that Huawei faces in developing AI chips. Although the homegrown rival to NVIDIA recently presented innovations without mentioning ASML devices in a rare English language public appearance. The rivalry between the US and China also spilling over into capital markets, the fallout making it increasingly difficult for Chinese tech firms to list overseas. One expert we spoke to says the competition is pushing Beijing to step up market reforms, revive appetite for Chinese equities, and keep listings closer to home.
I understand where they're coming from, because if Chinese investors were buying up all of these American AI companies, let's face it, who gets artificial general intelligence first? And subsequently, I think in a matter of weeks or months, superintelligence. That is the new superpower. And so why allow their own citizens to invest in, to fund the American?
See, this is where the fallacy of thought here. They keep on thinking that everything is going to be just exponential. But many things in nature and social systems, they're not exponential. They're exponential at a certain time point or a certain period. But there is a tendency for feedback. Complex systems have feedback loops, positive and negative. And these feedback loops actually start to reduce the exponential growth and it starts to plateau. It's called an S-curve. Now, certain new things could happen in the environment of that complex system that could lead for additional exponential growth. Or there can be feedback loops that leads to a decline. There's no guarantee that a country that gets general intelligence first will be first out of the gate to get super intelligence. There's no guarantee of that. There could be some negative feedback loop, or as you get to general intelligence, HEI, there are stochastic processes as these frontier models are being built up. There are stochastic processes that may lead to a path that is faster to get to AGI versus another path. You may have, for example, as these foundational models are moving out, getting closer and closer to AGI, one path may accelerate to AGI first. Another path may be a little bit slower. Another path may never get there. So there's like a Monte Carlo probability cone that is created because of the stochastic processes of getting to AGI. It's not one path. There are multiple paths. And there are feedback loops as these frontier models are building out. That's an important point here. So one company may get there first, but that doesn't mean that another stochastic foundation model doesn't catch up really quick. All right, that's a key point to understand. But once you get there, it doesn't mean that you get to super or ASI, artificial superintelligence, super fast. It could be a plateau for a while, or it could get super fast. But if you are at AGI and you get there super fast, one company, let's say, or country gets there first, doesn't mean that the second country can't get there in weeks later. What's the big difference? Well, with the exponential theory that's coming from the ex-CEO of Google, whatever his name is, the assumption with the exponential theory for ASI is that whoever gets there first for AGI will get to ASI. But that's the exponential theory. Well, what happens if it's not exponential? What happens if there's this probability cone? And what happens if there's a plateau? Because of technology, because of social regulations, or whatever it is. Doesn't matter. Something could retard the actual growth path. And it won't be exponential. But even if it is exponential, and China, let's say, gets ASI first, it doesn't mean that they'll be dominant. Because it's probably going to be very quick for other countries to get there quick. And so what's really the big difference between an ASI that is 2 or 1 week or even 1 year difference from one country to another? Is there really a big difference? Let me prove my point here. LLMs seem to be really important for OpenAI, and everyone was scared. Google was scared. Google stock and Alphabet went down because of it. Microsoft was scared. Oracle was scared. Elon Musk. So you had all these companies building out and investing in frontier models. So you have Gemini, you have Grok, you have all these different systems, these frontier models that are relatively the same. There's not much difference. There's a marginal differences. One will, when they release a new model, one will be marginally better than the other. And it's like this race going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So that they're reaching an S curve. This proves my point. LLMs are reaching an S curve. And even if you had one leader at a particular time period, doesn't mean that second and third place can't catch up really quick. So what's the marginal benefit of getting to ASI so quickly? Probably very similar to where LLMs are today in terms of relative competition. I'm not too worried about it.
Companies that are all working to AGI, they don't say it out loud. These companies like Google or OpenAI or Anthropic or Microsoft. But the holy grail for all of them is to get artificial general intelligence which is as smart as people, and shortly thereafter will be smarter than people. So I understand why naturally China would want its own people to fund its own research.
Will it get there? Will artificial general intelligence get there? Yeah, it's probably going to get there within less than 5 years. But so, big what? Big deal. Big deal. Now, it may affect the job market and all that. That's a totally different story. And does it create aggregate demand or reduce aggregate demand? I am a little concerned that it reduces aggregate demand and it causes a deflationary spiral. With that said, let's just assume that everything is copacetic economically. So what if a company gets AGI first and shortly after gets ASI first? These other companies that are close competitors are going to get there also. So I'm not too worried about it. Because social systems have feedback loops. Complex systems, even if they're not social, have feedback loops, positive and negative. And so this idea of just total exponential growth without some sort of decline or some sort of plateauing, that's to assume that it's just not how nature works. To assume that it's only going to be exponential. That's not how nature works. Then you have the energy as a feedback. What happens, being able to store it is a problem. What happens if there's a war and your data centers are destroyed? See my point? There are a lot of feedback loops that can prevent the exponential growth pattern that the Google ex-CEO thinks is going to happen. This is the problem with these eggheads. They always think they know better. But nature has a tendency to take away that hubris of mankind.
Principally, the fact that the earnings in the big technology companies, the earnings are starting to rise again. So those have been falling. But I can't tell you when people are going to come back to those kind of companies. I think, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know which, we'll have to wait for this huge enthusiasm toward AI hardware to kind of, fade a little bit. And I just don't know when that's going to be.
You watch people that have a tendency to be very mathematical, and usually it's in the physics realm. They get a lot of hubris. They think they know it because they know complex math. But they have a tendency to miss the forest through the trees. They're so looking at the details that they miss the big picture. Feedback loops. Emergence of properties that cannot be modeled. And they fail miserably all the time. So when you start saying, you know what, there were nefarious activities by the government in some sort of domain, like maybe biologics, you get all these experts saying, oh, that couldn't be, that's everything's zoonotic and blah, 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 blah. Really? Don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. You see this very common in academia where you got a bunch of eggheads thinking they know it all. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the collagen. Collagen will help to remodel your joints. This is very important if you have a sports injury or osteoarthritis. Why does this work? Let me tell you. Collagen will inhibit certain enzymes. And these enzymes that collagen are inhibiting, these enzymes, when you're blocking them, will reduce inflammation. You have some enzymes called Ep4 that produce more inflammation. Well, you want to block that. Collagen blocks Ep4. By blocking the inflammatory pathway, you're reducing erosion of the joint. In addition, you can block the pain gatekeeper, NAV 1.7. So you're reducing pain. In addition, collagen also blocks MMP3 and MMP13. So you're reducing joint erosion because those enzymes erode the joint. So you want to block them. So this inhibits those enzymes. Collagen also helps to recruit glucosamine and collagen type 2 to be able to remodel the cartilage. So when you're doing your little exercises and you're opening up the joint a little bit past the pain point and count to 20 or 30 seconds and do that 2 or 3 times a day, you're actually sending micro signals to remodel the joint. And taking the collagen, you're blocking some of the pain. You're recruiting the ingredients to help to remodel the cartilage, but you're also recruiting the ingredients to remodel the cushioning of the joint, ACAN and chondroitin. When you do that, over time, you'll be able to open up the joint with less pain and you'll have more articulation. It takes time. You have to do these exercises that I just mentioned. You open up the joint just a little bit past the pain point, count to 30, and release. Do that 2 or 3 times and do that every day. Take the collagen and the collagen. The collagen powder that I have gives you the ingredients to rebuild. The collagen blocks these enzymes, helps with the pain, and helps to recruit the ingredients to rebuild the joint. So please go to my store, get the collagen, and stack it with the collagen. Now, to help with temporary pain relief, also use this super strong relief that's from my store. It's a topical, you rub it on the joint. And you're blocking the pain, you're remodeling, you're getting the ingredients you need to remodel the joint, and over time, your sports injury or osteoarthritis will improve. Now, there's another protocol that you can do where you're taking higher doses of vitamin D3 and K2, and you're remodeling the joint also through doing light resistance training and taking turmeric to keep the inflammation down. There's another way to remodel the joint. That's not so much the remodeling the joint, it's more improving the bone density that's causing the osteoarthritis. So there's ways to remodel joint pain, especially arthritis. You just pay attention. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the collagen, stack it with the collagen. All right, what did Obama say?
Barack Obama is unveiling his presidential center in Chicago, and during the opening ceremony, he couldn't help but take a subtle shot at what appears to be the current president. Listen.
Their voices are not heard because we've got a set of institutions that have fallen victim to the siren song of everything's about money and everything's about attention and everything's about fame.
What? Whoa. You remember Barack Obama? All right, it's not hard to forget the Barack Obama days. All right, let's think about that. What he just said. It's so easy to fall into the whole fame and money realm. What about Vogue magazine, right when they came into the White House? One of the most photographed women, first lady ever in the White House history was Michelle Obama. They had this kind of marketing manufacturing machine that was going on with the White House under the Obama administration, because he was the first black and they were trying to promote DEI and affirmative action and all this stuff. So what about all of this kickback money that was going to his daughter or Michelle? There was impropriety happening with Michelle Obama. And then these deals with the book. How did he become such a multimillionaire? Oh, it's about money. It's so rich for him to say that. Acting like Mr. Poor Guy. Shit. Let's just rewind it. Just with the context of what I just said. With what I just said, just think back on his administration and where they are right now and how wealthy they are. Do as I say and not as I do. That's what he's doing.
A set of institutions that have fallen victim to the siren song of everything's about money and everything's about attention and everything's about fame.
So, Larry, help us break that down, because
it's a little horseshit.
The former president is taking a swipe at the current president for what he says are changes to our institutions driven by money and fame.
Yeah. How many donors gave how many? 850 million.
That's what it is, the Obama presidential sanction, right?
It's a terrible thing.
Yeah.
It's a terrible thing. The first trillion.
What about the book deal that the Barack Obama and Michelle Obama had?
So
You didn't build that.
I know. Barack Obama will go down in history because he was the first African American president, and that's not nothing. All right. No.
First of all, he wasn't the first African American. Here's the problem with this. Problem number one: we don't have hyphenated Americans. You're either American or not. There's no such thing as African American, or Jewish American, or Irish American. You're either American or you're not. And if you're not American, then you don't deserve to be in the country. It's that simple. It's not hyphenated American. That's problem number one. Problem number two: Barack Obama isn't the first black president. He's a mulatto. He's half black.
It's election night late on another network years ago, and I said the same thing. It's a big deal. On the other hand, regrettably,
it's a big deal for a mulatto to be president. That's true. But he's not a black president. He's a mulatto president. He's just as much black as white.
His domestic policies were terrible, his economic policies were terrible, and his foreign policies were worse. Mm-hmm. And you talk about a managed decline of America's fortunes. He is the embodiment of that, a mismanaged decline. And the good news is President Trump has reversed almost all of them. But history will prove, whether the Trumpian legacy extends beyond or not. We don't know that yet, but certainly he is reversing it. So I give President Obama, that point. I consider it as a civil rights person. I consider it a very important point. When people were screaming,
him elevating to the presidency is a major, positive direction for the country, because it's not about race. But he made it about race. And this idea that the Obamas aren't about money, you need to wake up, because they are all about money, just like the Clintons. But Barack Obama is not the first black president. He's a mulatto. And there's a key difference here. Key difference. So why doesn't he say that? That is, he's just as much black as he is white, because his mother was white. And the last time I looked, in biology, you get 50% of your genes from your mother and 50% of your genes from your father. Now, his foreign policy and his domestic policy was terrible. He's a socialist. But he's less of a socialist compared to the new crazy socialists that are on online now. But Barack Obama is saying it's all about money. Well, what about this library? And the thing is that he wasn't self-made. He wasn't self-made. Trump was self-made.
I was in the government, White House in 2020, and people from other networks were yelling at me about why didn't I understand racism this and racism that. I used to point out that a black president won twice with handsome majorities. How is that possible if the country is totally racist? And they never wanted to answer that, okay? But his policies were awful, my judgment.
Well, just listening to that soundbite, we've had a debate on this program about the birth rates falling, why are young men struggling in this society? And if I were opening up a library, I feel like there would be a message of hope, excitement, all of these things. And that was such sort of like a downer. Mm-hmm. And I think that is why there have been studies done that the left is not having kids because they think that the earth is dying, climate change is coming, all hell is breaking loose. The right seems to have a lot of optimism and excitement in future. And we believe that the best is yet to come despite everything in this country. So I think just listening to that, it was like, oh gosh, what a way to open it. Just so down instead of optimistic. And to me, that just encapsulates right now, the left.
Right.
Yep.
And I think that's also reflected. I mean, I hope I can say this, but can we just note the building design? If we have
It's about God, country, and family. And it is on the foundation of the Enlightenment. Now, does Barack Obama seem to recognize or appreciate or align with the Enlightenment? I don't think so. It's about life, liberty, and property rights, not taking from people. Barack Obama is about taking from people. Secondly, God, country, and family. Do you think that the left actually has an affinity for God? Most of them are atheists or agnostic. Country, they hate the country. They don't respect our American flag. And they want to destroy the Constitution. And do they care about family unit? Really? Do they? As they have their more than 65 million abortions since 1972? It's probably closer to 70 million abortions. Now, not all of them were Democrats. They were having the abortions in the United States. But the point I'm making here is that the Democratic Party is not aligned with God, country, and family and the Enlightenment. Therefore, they're antithetical to our constitutional republic. And because of that, conservatives need to push back.
To Google it and take a look because I describe it as quite something.
Well, it's so I got my degree in architectural history.
Why do the Obamas need 4 homes? Why? I thought they cared about the planet. I thought they cared about being in a community. Yet they have 4 communities that they have to live in. How are you part of a community if you have 4 homes roaming around? You're not part of the community. What about their deal with Netflix? Why don't they just, like a normal president, just like go off into the sunset instead of being a problem? No, he still needs to exercise control of the Democratic Party because the Clintons are now sunsetting. They don't have the energy, they're too old, and the Obamas are right there to influence the midterm election and the general election in 2 years.
or art history. So it's brutalism is dead because it's ugly. And just look at the Marcel Breuer building on Madison. It used to be the Whitney. They couldn't even find what to do with that doggone thing. I think one of the auction houses is in it now. It's butt ugly. And so they're trying to, well, they're bringing butt ugly back, or trying to, because that's what it looks like, brutalism.
$850 million, Brian, for that. But you could say whatever you want about President Obama's this wife.
Rich man building Lord of the Rings tower in Chicago who makes movies for Netflix. is
Right.
complaining about-
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, got it.
Noted. Well said.
Do as I say, not as I do. That's what Barack Obama just did. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the C60. C60, you can get it in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, or an 8 ounce configuration. It is cheaper per ounce to get the higher ounce configuration to save some money. C60 is a very potent antioxidant. It's 1,000 times stronger than vitamin C. Take a teaspoon a day, every day. You can get it in MCT coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil, and avocado oil. Take a teaspoon a day, every day, and it'll soak up free radicals, help to improve your immune system and your endocrine system, your cardiovascular health, your brain function. Even the basal layer of your skin, so your skin will improve. And over time, you're going to notice that you have more energy and you will visibly look younger. But you're soaking up those free radicals and bringing down that inflammation, so you literally are aging slower. By soaking up free radicals at the cellular level, you're improving your mitochondria, so you're going to have more ATP, so you're going to have more energy, and those tissues will perform better. And you're bringing down that inflammation, so your body will go into homeostasis. Take a teaspoon a day, every day, preferably on an empty stomach. Now, at the vascular level, it's going to soak up free radicals and reduce plaque formation. At the brain level, your neurons will have less stress, less inflammation, soak up free radicals. Your mitochondria within the neuron will produce more ATP. They'll have more energy to produce the neurotransmitters. And what will happen is that you'll have positive neuroplasticity, so you'll be able to think faster and have better memory. Take this every day, teaspoon a day. I've been doing this for over 10 years. This is a major part of my anti-aging protocol. Now, what's the protocol? It's really simple. It's very simple. You have a probiotic as a foundation to improve your gut biome. You have the Max 35 cleanse or Max 14 to improve your innate immune system. That's the first pillar. The second pillar is the C60 to soak up the free radicals and keep down that inflammation. The third pillar, turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans. Boost up that immune system, help with your cardiovascular system and your endocrine system. And Boomer Boost has the minerals and multivitamins and other compounds to boost up your energy levels, improve your brain function, help with your cardiovascular system, help with your musculature, rev up your metabolism, and slow down the aging process. Keep down inflammation and soak up free radicals. When you stack that all together as a protocol, and you do a little bit of resistance training, a little bit of cardio, you want to be more resistance training versus cardio, you want to build some muscle, drink filtered water, stay away from processed foods, learn new things, talk to people in the real world, get plenty of sleep. When you do that holistically, you're going to slow down the aging process radically. And you're going to be able to add 10, 20, 30 years to your life. You can take my advice or don't take my advice. I really don't care. Because the only person that is going to help to improve your life, help to improve your health, is yourself. You got to look in the mirror and say, you are in control of your destiny. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Thank you for listening. That's the end of my broadcast. And beware of the socialist. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day.